Yo, what's up everyone? The True Opinionist back at it again with another video. So today, I'm going to be reviewing the glorious movie that is Madam Web. This is my first video out of 2024, and I hope you guys enjoy it. But yeah, I watched Madam Web twice. Shocking. Saw it once in the theaters the day it came out, which was Valentine's Day. I just really needed a thing to fill out the day as padding before I went to work. So I, out of boredom, I went to watch the movie, and man, was it peak. It's the best movie I've ever seen, 10 out of 10. 5 stars. But, all jokes aside, Madam Web is something else. This line should tell you it all. This line also was not in the movie, so keep that in mind.
Before. So who is he? Ezekiel Sims. He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
Wait, think that line was? Yeah, that is the line that sold me on this movie. I just needed to hear that one line, and I'm like, alright Sony, take my money. But nevertheless, yeah, this movie's a train wreck. I watched it, like I said, I watched it once in the theaters, and I watched it yesterday actually, the bootleg version with my friend, and we were having a good time. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this movie, but it's a DC movie. It's called Catwoman. It's not a good movie. It's another one of those bad movies, but it's a bad movie that's good. It's so bad that it's good. And it's good for that generation. So back then, you would get terrible superhero movies. And DC, of course, had Catwoman. This is Sony's Spider-Man version of Catwoman. But yeah. Oh boy. So this movie, I was kind of curious, I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of curious because I keep up with leaks, I keep up with movie news, and, in the leaks before this movie came out, it was rumored to be this lady, aka Cassie Webb, or Madam Webb, her superhero name, is supposed to protect Peter Parker as a baby. And this villain, Ezekiel Sims, was supposed to kill Spider-Man for whatever reason. And that was the original plot of this movie. But I guess Sony wasn't satisfied, so they redid the whole movie. And when you watch the final product in the theaters, or the bootleg version, or however you decide to watch this movie, you can tell the movie was re-edited multiple times and just edited poorly. Because there's so many scenes. One, there's a villain. Like I said, his name is Ezekiel Sims. I don't know the actor's name who plays Ezekiel Sims. I've never seen him act before. This is the first movie I've ever seen him in. Whenever he talks, his lips don't match up with his dialogue. And you can tell that. You can tell they re-edited this movie multiple times. They pulled a MCU and edited it in post. And it's just so baffling. My friend and I were laughing at the many times that you could catch it. So it was like, when I was watching it in the theaters, I'm like, what am I watching? The new plot is pretty much Madam Web has to save these 3 girls from Ezekiel Sims. So it's still the same thing, just it's swapped with girls who kill this villain in the future. So it's like a Terminator Spider-Man. It has a clever idea. I feel like if executed right, this could have been a great movie. But, you know, Sony doesn't know how to make movies that aren't, like, if it's not a Spider-Man movie and it's dedicated to villains or other characters besides Spider-Man, they do not know how to make a film. Because Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, Morbius, those aren't great movies. I mean, I like the first Venom film. I feel like I could tolerate it. Venom 2 I thought was okay, but it was on the verge of bad. Morbius was just terrible. And now we have Madam Web. I didn't think it could get worse than Morbius. And it got worse than Morbius. You know, I usually try and be as kind as possible with movies. Like when I do reviews, I don't like being too harsh, because I know at the end of the day, these are all people. I know people work hard on films, and so I try and be fair with criticism. I try not to be too lenient on a film, and I try not to be too hard on something. But this movie, it's really hard to be kind to it because there isn't really anything great about it. It's so bad it's laughable, and there's nothing that I'd say would stand out as a positive. Although, I will say Dakota Johnson in this movie was really good. Like, she actually seemed like she wanted to be there, in my opinion. Yeah. Also, another thing Dakota Johnson said in an interview, she was like, "You're gonna love," she said it in a seductive voice. Why? I don't know. But she was like, "You're gonna watch Madam Web, you're gonna see it twice." Actually, instead of explaining it, let me have her tell you.
So, while my character in the movie may be able to see the future, I also can. And I know what the future brings. I know that when you see Madam Web, you're gonna love it. In fact, I think you're gonna see it twice.
There you have it. She said you're gonna see it twice and you're gonna love it. She wasn't wrong. I did see it twice. And yeah, I don't love it. It's, like I said, it's funny because it's terrible. Instead of laughing with the movie, I laughed at the movie. Sad to say, but yeah, this movie is like a worse version of a CW superhero show. I know not everybody's into superhero shows, so I'm pretty sure not a lot of you would know what I'm referencing, but this movie is worse than a TV show on the CW, and CW makes bad TV shows. And I'm just like, you catch things like bad lip movement from the villain Ezekiel Sims. You'll get bad acting from a lot of characters. This movie, I don't know what they were doing when they were re-editing it and changing it around, but it just doesn't work. You know, like I said, I think the only good part was Dakota Johnson. To me, she was funny intentionally and unintentionally, but dialogue in this movie is terrible. Costumes, you know, when I first saw the trailers, I thought they looked interesting. The costumes to me didn't look bad, but the more I look at the movie, the more I'm just like, what were they doing? Also, what was the point of the costumes? The 3 girls you see in the trailer in their superhero spider costumes, you don't see them much. Like, what you get in the trailers is what you get in the movie. It's like max 3 minutes. And I'm like, when you make a superhero movie, usually there's action. I'm not saying you can't have a superhero movie without action, but that's kind of weird. It's a superhero movie. These type of movies usually have action and stuff. And they never put on their costumes. They don't really use powers like that. The only people that use it is Madam Web and Ezekiel Sims. Then you got poorly written references that you can easily guess what they are. Like if you're a Spider-Man fan, you'll easily know what they are. They're the worst references I've ever seen in a movie. Like usually references are for those people that want to be rewarded. Like if you know the continuity already, either from the comics or past TV shows or movies, then you'll get the reference that they're referencing. In this movie, they have references to stuff you know. Like you don't even need to be a comic book fan, to know these references. But they're so bottom of the barrel, empty and lifeless, that it's like, what was the point of having them? You know, they're so scared to embrace what the original idea of the movie was, and the references just feel tasteless. I'm not saying that's what a movie should be. I don't go to a movie for references, but you know, if you're gonna put a reference in a movie, at least make it something that people would enjoy. Finally, you know, like I said, this movie is way too, well, I can't say it was too long, but it drags on. It's boring. Its pacing is terrible. You know, there's one huge side quest in it, and the location we go to, it's like, it's not a good representation of that location. And then it's like, if you don't have the money to do that location, why do it in the first place? Characters are also very one-dimensional. So the four girls we follow, our main leads, we follow Dakota Johnson, who's known as Cassie Webb in the film, and Madam Web as her superhero alias. She's like the stoic, or not stoic, but she's more of a leave me alone type of person. I don't want to be bothered by this. I don't care what you're going through type person. And then we have the three girls. We have Sydney Sweeney. I know her characters from the comics, but I'm blanking at the character's name. That's honestly all three characters. I know them from the comics, but I cannot think of their movie names / comic book names right now. But yeah, Sydney Sweeney's character, she's supposed to be the sweet girl in the group. Then we have the black girl with the fro. I'm not describing these people right, but I'll edit it in so you guys get a better idea of what I'm trying to say. She plays Martha. I think that's her name. Only reason why I remember that is because me and my friend had to look it up while we were watching that movie. Their names, when they say it, go by so fast that it's hard to catch them. Oh, yeah. So the black girl, like the black actor, plays a girl in the movie called Martha Franklin. I'm surprised I even remember that. But yeah, her personality is supposed to be the mean one of the group. And then the last one, she's like the smart one of the group and more level-headed than the other two. And one thing this movie does is it gives these characters personality traits. Keep that in mind. They don't give them personalities. They give them personality traits. And they don't do anything with it. These characters are one-dimensional. Sad to say, but it's true. You don't learn anything too deep about them. This movie doesn't give you a chance to get invested into anybody besides maybe Cassie. But every other character, they're all one-dimensional. The three girls that are supposed to be protected, They all have one-dimensional traits. And, you know, one thing that makes me sad, not only did this movie have an interesting premise, I'm mad the trailers hooked me in. Like, it actually looked like a compelling story. And, you know, it actually had spider people in it, and they wasted it. So they finally, for once, focused on a character with actual spider abilities that's not Spider-Man or a villain. And they didn't do anything with it. But my point is, the characters, the plot, the actors, there are some good actors. There's an interesting idea in this movie. And it all goes to waste. You know, the actors, usually I'll have something nice to say about an actor. I'll say there's a standout. Like for me, it was Dakota Johnson. I enjoyed her in this movie. Like, she wasn't the best at acting, but the script was just terrible. Dialogue was poorly written, especially with her character. Like a lot of the action she took in the movie, her character took in the movie, contradicts everything that she was saying. But yeah, there was things like that, and I'm just like, this is not smart. And like I said, usually I'll put an actor, if I'm doing a review on a bad movie, I'll at least try and give highlights like, oh, this actor was good. Like I said, Dakota Johnson was kind of my standout. But for the most part, there are talented actors in here, and they're all wasted. There's no one in this movie that can really save this plot, or save this movie for that matter. And yeah, I don't like to be this negative about something, but that's just how this movie is. One other thing before I end this review. So this movie is supposed to be set in the early 2000s because Sony likes setting these spin-off movies in the 2000 eras, or at least there's supposed to be omissions or like nice little throwbacks to old superhero movies, like in the early 2000s, like Spider-Man 1, the Tobey Maguire series, things like the X-Men movies, or stuff from DC. I don't know what came out in 2001 in DC, or 2002, around that time. But it's supposed to be stuff like Blade, stuff like Catwoman. It's supposed to be an homage or a nice little payoff to old superhero movies, nothing like what we have today. So in the actual movie, the setting of the world takes place in the early 2000s, and there's so many plot holes. In the beginning of the movie, there's things that contradict when this movie is supposed to take place. There's technology. I can't go into further details outside of there's technology, but there's technology that shouldn't exist that exists somehow in the 2000s. And as I'm watching this, I'm just like, this doesn't make sense, because back then technology wasn't this powerful. How can it do what you're saying it can do? And I'm just like, bruh. There's also things that happen in the story that shouldn't happen so soon. Time works terribly in this movie. Everything happens so quickly that I'm like, that's not how real life operates. You know, Spider-Man No Way Home, this is a prime example of another Sony/Marvel movie. That movie, I liked that movie. I thought it was good. But that movie had plot holes. A lot of them. This movie also has plot holes, but it is not good. Usually, if a movie is good, you can overlook a movie's plot holes. Yes, it has them. Like Spider-Man No Way Home, I love that movie. It has plot holes, and it has a lot of them. But I can overlook those plot holes because I thought that movie was good and enjoyable. This movie, on the other hand, is not good, and it can be enjoyable if you're making fun of it like me and my friend were. It was so bad that we were laughing at it. It's unironically funny. So I did have some enjoyment from the movie. You can get a laugh out of this movie. You can get some enjoyment out of it, but it's going to be at the movie's expense. But yeah, nevertheless, my point is, this is a terrible movie that has plot holes. And because it's a bad movie, it's hard not to notice the plot holes and not nitpick at them. So yeah, overall, this movie was bad, and I've seen 2 movies this year so far. I've seen The Beekeeper with some friends. I was planning to do a review on that. If you guys still want a review on that movie, it came out in January. If you still want a review on that movie, I can do it. But yeah, that was the first movie I saw this year, and then Madam Web was the second. And out of the 2, this is infinitely worse, and yikes. If you want a bad time at the movies, definitely go check out Madam Web. I also will say, form your own opinions. This is just my opinion. This is how I saw the movie. I enjoyed it only because it's a bad movie that was funny unironically. But yeah, it has plot holes, terrible writing, bad pacing. And it's a movie that didn't need to exist. So overall, my rating of this movie, probably 2 stars just because I did have enjoyment out of it, or 2 out of 10. I hope you guys enjoyed this review of Madam Web, and I'll see you all in the future of 2024. Peace out.